Hey, how's it going? And today I'm excited to bring you this tutorial. There's actually a lot of concepts we're going to be covering in this. This is basically how to communicate between a third person blueprint and the user widget blueprint. And this seems like it would be easy, but there's actually quite a few concepts that you need to know to be able to do it. So even at a very basic level, it can be frustrating. So anyway, that's why I'm making this tutorial, just to kind of go very slowly over some of these ideas so that you start appreciating them in greater detail. So anyway, we're just going to go into a third person template and go create. And I've actually been working on this for a few hours, just trying to make it kind of as simple as possible. So to get started on this, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to create a couple things that we won't actually be needing, but I will be using them in a future project, so I just want to go ahead and include them. So basically what we're going to be doing is creating a NPC player that's going to can generate 3 responses to you. And it seems like that would be easy to do, but it's actually kind of involved. So anyway, to start, we're going to start by creating the 3 messages. So we're going to do that. We're going to create an enum first to do that. So we're going to go into blueprints and we're going to go to enumeration. And we're just going to call this NPC enum. And this is just the first part of really what's involved. So here, like I did a tutorial about this before, this is basically just the names for switches. So these don't actually hold any data. So we're just going to name the first one message 1. And we're not even going to be using this. So, but I just want to show you how you would kind of use it along the way. So message 2. And like I said, this is going to be an NPC that generates 3 messages, and that's it. And this is just a list, and we'll just go ahead and dock this up there so we remember the name of it, and we'll save it. Now we have to generate this first because the next thing we're going to generate is a structure, a data structure. And so we come into blueprints again, and we're going to go to structure, and we're going to name this one NPC struct, just so we know what it is. And this is for, some of this is going to be for future reference. So we're going to do here, we're going to do NPC message 1, and this is going to be stored as a text. I don't know why, when I click on this, it doesn't go the first time. And then we're going to create another one, and this is going to be NPC message 2. And then we're going to create another one, and this is going to be NPC message 3. And then we're going to create another variable, and this time this is actually going to be, this is for future reference. We're not going to use it today, but this is just going to be for player responses. And it's a text, but we're going to store it as an array. And as far as I know, that's all we're going to do for today. Just those 3 variables. This is all we're really going to be working with. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into, why did I say that? Okay. So now we have all that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our third person character here under blueprints, and we're just going to hit Control D, and we're just going to call this NPC underscore, well, it should be BP underscore NPC. Okay, and then we're going to be, I'm going to open this up because we're going to be using it quite a bit, and I'm just going to dock it. But right now I'm going to jump back into the content level folder, and now I'm going to basically create our dialog widget, and this is where most everything will be taking place. So the first step is I'm going to right click and go to user interface, and we're going to create a widget blueprint. It's user widget, and we're going to call this dialog. And I'm going to double click into it, and then all we're going to do here, this is just a bare bones setup so you can get the concept, is a canvas panel, and I'll drag that onto the scene, and then I'm just going to get a text variable and drag that onto the scene. And I'm just going to resize this into make it into a box like that. And then I'm just going to call this, I'm going to make it is variable, and I'm going to call this message box. And then we're going to compile and save that. And that's kind of the first part of everything. So now what I'm going to do is jump into the graph side of things. I'm going to delete all these because we don't need them. One of the questions is, okay, so we've created a enum and a struct here. Here they are up here. How do we get to them? How do we get them in here? So what we have to do is create a variable to them, like a reference to them. So we're going to click here to create a variable, and I'm going to call this NPC struct, similar to what it was called before, and we'll come under here and we'll come under structure, but we could search for it that way, but I know it's called NPC struct, so I'm just going to search for it here, and it's right here, and now we have it as a reference variable here. And then we'll do the same thing for the enum that we're not going to actually be using today, but I'll do this to show you just how it works. I'll say NPC underscore enum. Oh, no, that's an event. So let me just delete that, sorry. I meant to click here, and so it's NPC underscore enum, and then we'll go looking for it. We can type NPC again, and here it is right here, and then we got that. So we can compile and save that. So we have a variable for our message box, and then we have reference variables for our struct, which is basically a list of variables, and our enum, which is basically the names for switches that we're not going to really be using right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a custom event. And what we're going to do is, once we're done in here, we're going to go into the BP NPC character, and then we're going to call this event to trigger it here. So the first thing we want to do is right click and go begin event begin. I guess it's begin event, right? Begin event. No, I'm sorry. Gosh darn. It's custom event. Sorry. And we can just call this start. And then we don't need a blueprint user interface or anything for this. And then what we want to do is, since we're going to be sending data from the NPC character to here, it's going to come by way of the struct. So what we do is, I'm just going to drag this on, and we're going to go to set. So what this is going to do is, I'm just going to plug this in like that. And then that reminds me, clicking on here, we need to add an input for this custom event. And the input is going to be the strut. So we can just call this strut input, and then we'll just set it to our NPC strut right here. Gosh, I don't know why it does that. I'll click on it and it doesn't come over. There we go. So now we have our input here. So this is basically going to receive the data that we put into the NPC character for what we want the message to be. So this is on the receiving end of our NPC character that we're going to be doing in a minute here. And now what we want to do is, because it's a struct, it has to be, to access the data from it, what we have to do is break it apart. So what we're going to do is, we're going to come up here and pull off here, and we're going to go get the strut, and then we're going to pull off, and we're going to go break. It's kind of weird how this works, but you'll see there are the variables that we entered on the strut right there. Now what we want to do is, we're going to try to set the text that we have over here on our display. So it says right now, it says text block, but we're going to change that to what we put in coming from the NPC player. So what we're going to do here is, we pull up from our message box, get message box, and we're going to just pull off here and grab something called set text, and it's right here. Okay, I think the more you do this, the more this will all start making more sense. But we're going to go ahead and plug this in here, And then we want it to be our message 1 that we input there. And then what we're going to do, just for fun, is we're going to drag off here and we're going to create a delay. So what will happen is when we go into our blueprint of our NPC, we'll type in what message 1 says and what message 2 says, and I'm going to skip message 3 for right now just in the interest of time. But we'll type in what we want message 1 to be and what message 2 to be, and that will all transmit over here over these with these object references, and you'll see how it goes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a delay, and then we're going to have it be for like 5 seconds. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to reset our variable again. So I'm just going to drag off the message box again, and we'll drag off here, and I'll go set text again. So we're just going to reset our text one more time, and this time it's going to be what we put in for message 2. And I'll double click here because this is, or I can maybe just drag this up here so it's clear. And so that's it. That's basically takes care of our user widget. And so take a copy of that, make a copy of that, and that's basically will get you started with this concept. And then we'll just click compile and save, and we've got to remember to call this function, but we're basically done here, except there's one other thing we need to do is, now if we jump into our blueprint here for the NPC, one thing we have to do is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect here our event play, our breaker nodes, and I'm going to drag this over here. The question becomes this: so we've created these variables here, but how do we get them over here? We don't see them. Well, it's unbelievably simple. We can actually just copy them. So I can come over here, click, go copy, go in here, click over here and go Control V, and it pops up over here, the variable. Come back over here again, click on the enum, copy, come back into NPC, click Control V, and then it's over there. So we're all good to go there. And then the last thing that we're going to do is set this side of things up here. And this, to be honest with you, I really struggled through some of this myself because it's just kind of arcane and it's hard to get the information that you need. The one thing we need to do, because these are the 3 messages that we're going to do, is we need to set this to instance editable. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like now, so we'll compile and save this, and this hopefully will start making a little more sense. I go in here to the third person now, and I come over here to third person blueprint, and I drag the NPC onto the game. You'll see now if I come down here, we've got this NPC struct, and here's where we can enter our 3 messages. So let's say I want to enter, "This isn't that easy." And then the second message might be, "Well, maybe it is with study." And I could enter a third one, but I'm not going to, just in the interest of time. So it's instance editable, so then we can input it, and as many of these as I drag on, I can keep changing the messages. So anyway, we're going to go back in here, and what we got to do is create a widget. Now one of the things that I didn't know, and I had learned this myself, is that when you create an object reference variable, by default it's empty, and it can't be empty. Normally when you create a variable, it has a value in there by default, but when you create an object reference variable, it's completely empty, and that's unacceptable to the engine. And so you have to set it, and I didn't know that, and so it was causing a lot of issues. So the first thing we need to do is actually create the object reference variable, and we're going to create an object reference variable to the user widget itself, to this dialog. So that's what we're creating right now. So I'm going to come over here, create a variable, and we're going to call this, I'll just call it widget ref. And here we can search for it under object type, but it's easier just to type in dialog, and it's right here. And then we want an object reference. So there it is right there. And this can be private. This doesn't need to be public or anything like that. So we have that set. And now what we got to do is we have to create a widget. So we're going to drag off of here and create a widget. And we're going to set it to our dialog. And then what I can do is drag this off and go set, and then just drag it in. So now this object reference variable will not be empty. It'll be associated with this, so it's not going to be empty. And I kept getting errors, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Now what we want to do, that we've set that, is that we want to call that function that we made over here. So in our dialog, if you remember, we created this custom event, and now we're going to call that custom event from here, from over here. So what I have to do is drag off, and I should just look for start, and I should see it right here. And I can plug this in right here, and it looks like it's going to want the input from our NPC strut. So that is over here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag this over and plug this in. And then we're almost on the home stretch. All we have to do now is add this to the viewport. So we'll just go here and go add to viewport. What we do have to do is I do have to put this up here too. So this needs to come in over here as well. That's looking kind of messy, but I can double click here and create a reroute node. And let's compile and save, and hopefully I don't get any errors. And let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. So if everything went well, if I come over here, the messages that I put should appear up here. One for 5 seconds, and then the next one will come and hold. So let's see if that's what happens. This isn't that easy. It should go away in 5 seconds. Well, maybe it is with study. And that's it. I hope you found this helpful. There is actually a lot to this, but like I said, with study, I think it all starts coming together the more that you just get in here and fumble through and make your mistakes. So I hope you found this helpful again, and please consider subscribing if you are so inclined. Take care and have a great day.